Welcome, my children, once again to Horror Nights history. Yes. Alright, today we will begin talking about the events of the year 2002. Very interesting year in the history of Halloween Horror Nights, to say the least. Very monumental year, actually. Lots of amazing things happened. But before I get to it, before we go there, a couple of things I need to clear up. I've been getting requests from a lot of people. I've been getting a lot of comments from people. I love the comments, please keep them coming. But a lot of people are asking me, when are you going to have a review of Halloween Horror Nights 20? And I understand, you are excited about this year's event. We attended it, just a couple weeks ago, and we're still a little high off of it. Maybe we're going through a period of post-Halloween Horror Nights depression. I understand all of that. Again, you want to read, what does Dr. Jimmy think about this year's haunted houses and events? And I will be posting such a review eventually. But you'll have to be a little patient. Yes. Yes, a little patient. Yes. Yes. Like the people who see a pediatrician, a little patient. Oh, bad joke. Awful. No, a little patient, yes. Because, as we are past Halloween Horror Nights 20 now, and look forward into Halloween Horror Nights 21, yet to come next year, that means that Halloween Horror Nights 20 is now a part of Halloween Horror Nights history, right? So it would be appropriate for me to review Halloween Horror Nights 20 and talk about the event thoroughly as part of this Halloween Horror Nights history set I'm doing right now. In other words, I'm on 12, so after I do 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, then I'll get to 20. Okay? Now, it may not be before the end of the year at the rate I'm going, but it might. I might, drink an awful lot of pop at once and be caffeinated up to my gills and just go on a mad marathon of making videos and post them as soon as I can, one after... What? Rubber pencil? No. There's a reference to the event this year. And then... Luminous or some shit. Anyway, and then... Then, I might, get a whole bunch posted in the next couple weeks or something like that. I don't know. It may not be until early 2011. And I know that frightens you because that's another year, but this is like more than halfway through November, so it ain't that far away, okay? Don't panic. Don't worry. You'll get it. Long before it's time for 21. Long before we know anything substantial about 21. And then we can start the mad 21 speculations. Some of you are already starting, and it's amazing. I don't know how you're getting this, using Ouija boards or something, because there's no substantial information about Halloween Horror Nights 21 at all. Just pure conjecture. Oh, pardon me. Oh, I just hacked up an organ, or a grand piano, or a harpsichord, or something sticky. Anyway, okay, that's out of the way. Okay, you'll get your video, don't worry. But we gotta go over the ones I haven't done yet, so it's 12 now. Not 2012, no, that's later on, in Mayans, explosions and stuff. No, I'm talking about Halloween Horror Nights 12, back in 2002. Yes. Now, before we go ahead with that, a couple of words about icons. And you think, well, you did all of that months ago. You had a whole bunch of those, icon stuff He talked about each of the icons and even went on like a whole video describing what the word icon means. You had, you know, the picture of Mary and Jesus from the Greek church, all of that stuff you did back then. Yes, yes. But there's something else about icons I didn't touch upon because I've learned more about it recently. And I think it's important, particularly in reference to 2002, which had some interesting iconic shifts going on, which also touches on this year and what could have been for this year, because did history repeat itself? Sort of. Sort of. All right, so the word icon is used a little differently over by the people behind the scenes at Universal than the fans use it. The fans, those of us, have come to take the word icon to very specifically mean the presenting character. We think of icons as being Jack the Clown and the caretaker and the director going up to fear itself. Yes, these are the icons. Now, some people get really nitpicky and fight over whether or not certain people were or were not icons. The whole storyteller Tara Queen controversy way back when. Remember that? I talked about that on previous videos. So you can go back and look all that up. I even coined the term icontroversy about that. You know, who is the icon, who isn't, blah, blah, blah. But behind the scenes, A&D had been using the word icon all along, talking about not just those characters, but before that, all of the graphic imagery used to promote Halloween Horror Nights. And what I learned this year is that for the longest time, they didn't design that. A&D from, well up into about 1999, yes, they designed the houses, they designed the scare zones. When they started doing scare zones, they were in charge of that stuff. And sometimes the shows, well, except for Bill and Ted, a lot of the shows came from outside. You know, you get a magician to come in and do an act. You know, you get some circus sideshow type performers come in to work the events. Robosaurus was brought in from outside. You know, all of these things. But so mainly they were designing houses, designing scares. That's what they were working on. Now, that chainsaw pumpkin, you know, in fact, the first logo of the classic Universal Monsters, that was the same one that was used across the entire Universal Studios company for the classic Universal Monsters. If you bought merchandise for the classic Monsters in 1991, it had that same logo on it. Okay, it's the same arrangement of the characters, exactly the same as it was at Fright Nights. The Chainsaw Pumpkin in '92, and in '93, the Arch with the demonic face in '94, we skip over the Crypt Keeper because that doesn't quite fit in, but even the use of the Crypt Keeper to some degree, and in '96 when they had the clawing through the darkness, the Igor in '97, the Primal Scream, you know, that looked like looked like the Frighteners logo. I talked about that, and of course the Mummy in '99. All of these, they were not drawn by somebody working here for A&D. No, these were designs that somebody came up with in marketing. And marketing came up with this because this was part of the marketing. This was advertising as far as they were concerned. This wasn't part of the event, this was the advertising. So marketing and promotions did this and then gave it to A&D. Okay, you want to put something like this in the park, but they had no, I mean, you know, it was like, it was never intended to be in the park, so to speak, except as marketing. So, and that's something that most people didn't even realize. I didn't know that. You know. So little Igor, you didn't expect, you know, there was no intention that he would be in the park. And some of these actually appeared in the park in a weird way. Well, the Mummy there was a Mummy ride, but then they were trying to promote the Mummy cross, it was called cross corporate, synergy, right? That sort of stuff of cross promotion from the movie to theme park to what have you. But there were little things like the Primal Scream, the Midway of the Bazaar in '98. They had the Primal Scream canvas stretched out over, and you walked under it, and there was that face, and the water dripped down on you. And that was one of the first times that the event icons, as they called it, was actually in the park for the event in a way, rather than just being on the billboards. Well, when they came up with the evil clown idea, J. Michael Roddy and others, actually it was J. Michael Roddy was the face that was used to model, but he had something to do with it, and other people in A&D, Kim and Dave and others, I forget who was the actual guy who drew the picture. They were both sitting right there and talking about it, and one of them drew the picture. I think it was Dave. And they did the face of Jack the Clown, and they came up with this concept. But unlike, marketing was, okay, this guy's going to be on the billboard, and no, he's going to be in the park. He's going to be all over the park. After that year, when he was everywhere, suddenly they understood that they could never do this again the way they did before. If they have a presenting character, the people are going to expect to see this character. That's what Jack taught them in 2000. And in 2001, they learned pretty much the hard way, because even though they tried to save face by saying, this is Jack, a lot of people, myself included, didn't like the fact that we didn't get to meet or see the Eddie. He wasn't there. That pissed us off. So they knew damn well that if they come up with a new icon character, this character would have to be physically present in the park. Now, what a lot of people didn't realize is, although they had designed Jack and they had worked back and forth on Eddie, marketing was still coming up with these icons. And many of what we think are iconic, when we use the new definition of icon for this sort of character, were also designed by marketing rather than A&D. And that happened the very next year, 2002. They gave them a character to use. It was a creepy little girl named Cindy. Now, the idea of using Islands of Adventure had already begun, yes. So, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm still going to talk about icons. So that's what I was trying to talk about. You see, they defined icons differently. So, Cindy was for marketing as an icon. The director was designed as a... A&D then took those ideas and went crazy with them. It was about, after that, being handed a character didn't happen quite so much often. And in recent years, that doesn't happen anymore, and A&D is able to design this presenting iconic character the way they do. But in the early years, they were still, thinking, we gave you, the screaming face, we gave you the little demon eating the eyeball, so here's a creepy little girl icon, without any clue that she would even be in the park at all. And he said, no, whatever you give us, we have to have that person there, because the people are going to expect to meet the Cindy. So they had to develop this character more than just what they were handed a drawing, and this is going to be on the artwork for the billboard. So that's something that I wanted to talk about. All right, now, something else to talk about before I start really getting into 2002, and it's something I've mentioned on previous videos, especially for 2001, and there was a couple of houses, and I was like, gee, I can't remember that so well, and there's a scare zone. Now, I know I went in there, but was it indoors? What the hell was it? And I figured it out, pretty much. I figured out why this has happened. Now, I've only got a half a minute, and I don't know if I can explain this as quickly, but during these years that I was going to Halloween Horror Nights back then, it wasn't like it is today. That is, I wasn't like I am today. I don't have time for this, so I'm going to come back and do that in the next video. See ya in part 2.